Hey, we're talking about our top 10 geeky possessions. Up next on Geek Out SA. Do not attempt to adjust your YouTube video. We control the stream. And welcome back to Geek Out SA. It's Friday and we're having fun. We're here. We're talking about our top 10 geeky possessions, our own personal top 10 geeky possessions for me, for Colleen, and for Stuart.
And I wasn't thinking, like, when we decided to do this show, I was just thinking of my, like, recent top 10 geeky possessions.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't go back, because Stuart was like, we were talking about it right before the show, and I was like, well, I could have picked this and this, and he's like, well, you can only pick it if you still have it. And I was like, no, I still have it. Like,
Yeah.
I still have stuff from my childhood.
Yeah, because I'm much older than you guys, and I should have 50 years of geeky stuff, but I've been through several fires and lost everything, so I only have
that's awful.
about 15, 20 years worth of geeky stuff now, which is really, it bums me out.
Yeah, that would bum me out too. There's a couple of things that I've lost just like from being a kid, and like some of my action figures are buried in the front yard at my mom's house because we actually played with them back in the day. You know, some of them got melted by the sun because we left them outside in Texas weather. So
You'll have to go digging and rediscover them.
and rediscover the Yoda with the actual cloth cloak.
Mm-hmm.
He's in there somewhere, but he died and he was buried. So I think, Vincent, you're going to start our first round. So we're each going to do 10. So we're going to do 10 being our least, although it's not really our least, but of the 10, it's the least, and we're going to go down to 1.
Yeah. So my number 10 is, Colleen doesn't think it's geeky. I think it's totally geeky. Because back in the day, I was part of a muzzle loading club.
Uh-huh.
So we would dress up in like skins and stuff, and I actually got very proficient at throwing a tomahawk. So I could go like 50 feet away and split a playing card with my tomahawk. So I did that for years, so my tomahawk is my number 10. So I really enjoyed it. I really geeked out about it back then.
See, and you went like way back. I didn't know that we were
I
going like
I
way
went
back.
way back.
You went like way back.
I did.
So I didn't go.
And I still have them too.
No. So I did not go that far back. And I guess I won't discuss what I would have done if I had gone back, because then I'll go on an aside. So my number 10 is actually my very first Build-A-Bear that led to the whole like Build-A-Bear collection that we currently have. Build-A-Bear always was kind of like out of our price range.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went by and there was a $5 Build-A-Bear sale on this one like really super plain Build-A-Bear, but it was just to try to get people hooked, and it totally worked on me. And then since the bear was only $5, the Supergirl outfit wasn't that expensive. I think it was like 10 or something.
Yeah.
And then the little boots were like 10. So Kara, I named her Kara Zor-El. So she's my very first Build-A-Bear, and so she's like my number 10 because I just love her, and she started my whole like kind of I have a problem now. Help me, please. So what about you, Stuart?
Well, mine I couldn't find a photo of because, of course, we came up with this on the spur of a moment, and a lot of my stuff is at my place. But my number 10 thing is my original Octane Toys business t-shirts that I had hand airbrushed from back in 1992.
Oh, wow.
I graduated from high school then.
They are pretty bad.
They're pretty bad.
They're pretty bad stuff, but this is back in the day, and I actually had trademarks and TMs on them, and
nice.
It basically looked like a skull and crossbones with basically wearing a white ski mask.
Wow.
And
Awesome.
some neon lettering. And it's evolved a little bit since then. My website back then was oozing blood, and it was just awful 90s stuff.
Okay. It's perfect. Wonderful.
Nice.
So unfortunately, I don't have a picture of it, but if you search around the web, you can find really old versions of my website with the oozing blood and the terrible music, and it was, oh my god, it was like, what was I thinking?
Like, what was I doing?
My website isn't much better now because it has nothing on it, but
still,
it's a little
hey.
bit better.
So, number 9, I went back.
I thought we were supposed to go to me next.
Yes, we're supposed to go to Vincent. Come on.
Oh, he started it, so then I thought I was going to go next, and then you were going to go, so it was
Yeah,
gonna be
you
10,
went.
9,
You
8.
did.
You went. Come on.
I
Give
didn't
us a
go
break.
first. You went first with your
Yeah.
Tomahawk story.
Yeah, now he's going.
Now I
Yeah.
go.
Oh,
I
you're
go
gonna
9.
go first every time.
That's how it
Yeah.
goes.
We have to go in order.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
So, my number 9, I'm big time into edged weapons. So my 9 is a killer zombie weapon that Colleen bought for me a while back, and you kind of like strap it to your arm, and then you can like kill zombies in front and back of you,
Either direction.
either direction, and it worked really well at killing zombies because I killed several of them. It was awesome when we had a zombie invasion in our house. It was cool.
I don't think that really
I
happened.
was like,
That didn't really
I
happen.
don't
No, but it was a
remember
lot of fun. It's a really cool looking weapon.
that. It used to hang on the wall in the
Yeah.
living room, and one of our sons got hurt on it, so
Yeah.
then we had to take it down.
Then we had to take it down. But yeah, that's my number 9. I really enjoyed it.
So my number 9 is old, but it's not old to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was helping my mom. My mom's a hoarder, and I was helping her clean out some of her hoard. It's really bad. Don't get me started. But I was helping her clean out some of her hoard, and I actually found in my dad's room, because my dad passed away 13 years ago, his Rubik's Cube. It's an original Rubik's Cube. It's still sealed in the package. So the Rubik's Cube inside is sealed, and then the package is also sealed. So it's never been played with. Nobody's done the algorithm with it or anything. So that's on my list just because it belonged to my dad and because it's so iconic of our childhood, the Rubik's Cube, and it's really made a comeback lately. And so a lot of my students just absolutely love them, and I bought a ton of them. But just to see it there in the original package and everything, it was really cool. So that's one of my
That's really cool. I really like that one. All right, mine, again, no picture, but I can queue up something that kind of looks similar. I collect a lot of old superhero badges from basically the silver era, so 50s, 60s, 70s. So I have a lot of like Marvel and DC, but they're really old, just pins and badges. And I only just started doing that maybe 10 years ago. They're getting really hard to find.
You saw somebody with one?
Yeah, I saw somebody with one. I was like, that's really cool. I like that because it's an old one. It's not something new. And I went, oh, I'm going to buy some. And now you look on eBay and there's hardly any. But back 10 years ago, you could buy lots of them for 10, 20 bucks for like 10 or 15 of them. But now you might pay 10 or 15 for just the one. So that is really, really cool that I like. It's something stupid and something small, but it's something I really, really like. So,
I think it's cool.
So, yeah.
So my number 8. So I always been really big into video games. I started out on the Atari 2600, so I played a lot of those games. But when I really came into home gaming was with the NES. So my number 8 is one of my favorite NES games, River City Ransom.
Oh, I should have known.
Yeah, and we played that several times over and over again. I still have the cartridge. I still pop it in my NES and play.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of hidden things in that game, which make it really cool. It's like a quest, even though you're like, it makes you feel like you're in the 1950s. Gang.
It's fun, yeah.
Warfare.
You know, the stupid thing is, I don't think I've played much of anything with Cindy Ransom.
Oh, really?
Oh, really? Oh, we're gonna have to get you to play
Yeah,
because there's a newer
Yeah.
version on Steam and it's a lot of fun.
Because
Yeah.
I kind of skipped the Nintendo. I went Atari and then I went Super Nintendo.
Oh.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
You missed some really good
You
games.
missed some really good
yeah,
games.
I'm an arcade person. So the Nintendo, when it was first put out, had that stupid robot. I was like, why do I want a stupid robot for?
Oh.
Robot was
Yeah, Robbie.
Maybe it was cool.
So my number 8 is obviously Ninja Turtle related. It is actually the 4 Ninja Turtle figures that we actually bought for our sons when they were younger. And they used to have the belts and they had all the weapons and stuff. They don't have any of that stuff any longer because the boys played with them.
People still try to buy them off of us.
People try to buy them off of us all the time. For me, they're very nostalgic because it was our kids growing up. Those Ninja Turtles have taken baths with the kids. They've been to the swimming pool with the kids.
Mhm.
They've been to conventions with us. Like,
Yeah.
those Ninja Turtles have traveled. They have been on trips and vacations. And so I just, like, I love the Ninja Turtles anyway, but I love those 4 guys, like, as a kind of a set. I couldn't imagine, like, having one without the other. I don't know. It's just, you know, they're a family. They're the
Mhm.
guys, and they kind of represent, you know, our kids' childhood. So for me, that was one I had to add on. That one's kind of old
Yeah. Yeah.
because our oldest kid is almost 28.
Ninja Turtles are cool.
Ninja Turtles are always cool.
Maybe not the modern ones, but
No, I don't like that square head.
Oh,
animation
the
they
new
do.
ones on
No, no.
Nickelodeon.
No, yeah.
even my 11-year-old, he's like, they're not my Ninja Turtles. I was like, dude, please just stop.
So what's your number 8?
All right, my number 8 is a big thing because I like big things, and unlike you, when you collect video games, I collect arcade machines. So for me, it's one of my pinball machines. I own 8 pinball machines, and it's one called
Only 8.
yeah, only 8. One called Roller Games. It's not like my most favorite pinball machine of all time, but it's the most favorite one that I actually own.
Nice.
There's a lot that I would like, but I just can't afford them because
Right,
they're
right.
really expensive. But it's like one of the ones that I used to play all the time, so it's kind of it's okay. It's no Pinbot or Adam's Family or anything like that, but it's one I like to play, and out of the 8, it's like my most favorite. So,
That's cool.
and it actually works.
It actually works. Bonus.
Yes, I have several that have gone into a room that room has never been opened in like the last 10 years. So,
Wow.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
No. All right, Vince, number 7.
My number 7. I have to go back to the NES again.
Really?
Have to go back to the NES and back to the first Metal Gear.
See, when
On
you
the
said NES
NES.
last time, that's what I thought for sure you were going to say, and I had forgotten all about River City
Yeah.
Ransom, so.
So Metal Gear, the original Metal Gear, not Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear was on the NES, and it was ahead of its time. There were so many things that Solid Snake could do or get into that you just didn't see in games back then until then.
You used to love the CQC. I don't know if that was on the NES, but that was.
Well,
later-
I mean, you could
later
punch.
version.
You could
Yeah.
punch on there, and that's what you start out. You start out with like almost nothing, like no weapons at all, just your fists. But you acquire different different weapons and equipment throughout the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really fun game. Really, really worth it. If you've never played it, you should definitely play that game.
So my number 7 is a movie. We are like mega movie hounds, and I was like, I there's a movie that like speaks to my geekiness, and it's The Dark Crystal. For me,
I like the Dark Crystal.
one of the ultimate geek movies in my
Mhm.
life is The Dark Crystal. I could just watch it over and over and over and over again. I like so much about it. The puppetry, the story. I I love the Skeksis. You love to hate the Skeksis. Like, I just love
Well, even the
that movie.
prequel show is really good.
The show was really excellent, and I was really concerned about it being, just a train wreck, and it was beautiful. It was done really well.
And the cool thing about that, they mix the puppetry with CGI and makes it so much better than even the original, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, the way it looks.
The way it looks, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but the original looked really good for the
Yeah,
time.
for the time, yeah.
So
I mean, it's held up well.
I had a hard time deciding what movie, but when I was just made myself kind of be still, and I was like, just the first movie that like really makes you feel like, this is my geek persona, this is my geek life. Dark Crystal, that's it, hands down. So, all right, Stuart, number 7 for you.
Number 7 for me. Again, I couldn't find a picture of it because goodness knows.
Yeah.
They're probably not out there. But this was one of the first conventions I went to, BotCon 2005.
BotCon?
BotCon.
Okay.
And needless to say, I do the odd costume here or there. And I won the costume competition for BotCon 2005. And I have a nice crystal trophy about 1 foot tall that says first place BotCon 2005.
Oh, how cool!
Actually, for a while there, I had the first and second place sitting in my display cabinet, but I gave the second place trophy to somebody that is no longer with me anymore.
Okay.
Because
y'all did a couples thing, or?
No, it wasn't a couples thing. We did 2 costumes and 1 first and second.
Oh.
And she took the
Second.
trophy, and I kept the costume because I made it.
What was the costume that you?
You'll have to wait.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
hopefully you have the
Okay.
picture of that one.
Yeah.
So my number 6 is I'm really big into Superman.
Duh.
So, but one of the really cool, unique Supermans that Colleen got for me one time was the anime Superman. So I really, really like that one. I'm gonna make a nod, but it's probably one of your things, but I'll let you talk about that. But she has a real cool thing that should be coming up. I'm almost sure that it's on there. But yeah, Superman. I'm big into Superman. I love this Superman, and that's my number.
Yeah, he was really
that's
cool.
Number
when
6,
I saw him, I was like, oh yes, finally something like cool and unique.
Very
and
unique.
Different. Yeah. Sometimes
Very
you
unique.
find a character and you get the same old stuff. So it's nice to find something that's unique in a good way.
Yeah.
Sometimes they try to go unique and you're like, oh,
no, you can't do that. No.
So for me, I grew up with an art teacher father, so surrounded by art all the time, and went to art museums, and just loved art and learned how to appreciate art. So my next 2 possessions are actually artwork. The number 6 is my Dragon's Lair art. I always loved that video game. We would go to the arcade and I would just watch that video game over and over and over and over. And I never could play it. I do not have dexterity to play video games, and that one was so complicated. Like, I would throw quarters in it and get like 2 seconds into the game and be dead. That game was so hard. So I would just stand there and watch other people. So this is an original piece, and this is not even the colored piece. It's just like the original before he colored it or anything. And I have the poster, the print that he colored, because when he colors it, then he turns it into prints and sells it, and it's by Freddie Lopez. But I paid for the original hand-drawn art that he did, and so that's
I really like that one.
Yeah, that is really, really, really
it's
cool.
really beautiful, and it just takes me back to that moment. It was that moment where I realized
I used
that
to
video
love
games
to
could
play
be
that
like a
game.
movie.
I used to love to play that game, but I was like horrible at it.
And isn't it amazing that video games have come to the point that they are all like that now, right? You're playing a movie. Like, everybody's like all amped up about The Last of Us Part 2 that just came out. And it's like playing a movie. So it's just amazing that we grew up and we started to see that technology kind of be there, but it wasn't there for everybody, and it's taken a while. But now
it took a long while, and then you get stuff like Metal Gear Solid, where you can like see those storylines here, like these cutscenes, and you're like, Wow.
Because the original Dragon's Lair was like playing the cartoon,
Mm-hmm.
and it ran on a laser disc, and the technology is old and clunky.
Nice.
So finding a complete working copy of the original Dragon's Lair is getting harder and harder. They do replicate the stuff with some modern hardware now, so you can save machines, but the original laser discs and stuff, they start to degrade after a while. So
Wow.
so that was cool.
That's cool. So what's your 6, Stuart?
My 6 is actually a toy, believe it or not.
Yay! Finally a toy from Stuart.
Yay!
The toy guy.
The toy guy finally gets a toy. Because I don't have a lot of stuff anymore, because quite frankly, I got rid of a lot of it, because it was like, what am I going to do with all this stuff?
We'd never. Pain.
Yeah. And I needed money, so I sold like most of my Transformers collection, but I went back to some of my childhood, and I went and found one many, many years ago, and now they're worth goodness knows how much. It's called a Gabriel. It's put out by a company called Gabriel, and it's called a Monster Maker, and it's basically a rotocast system where you crank a little handle and it turns the mold around, and it makes like Universal Monster heads and a couple of little robots and stuff, and you put like the little plaster in, you crank the little thing away, and and it does a really good Frankenstein monster head and a really good alien type thing, and they just look really cool from like the 70s. And you can like what I used to do was I used to do the rotocast thing, and then I turn them into like a bank, and you paint it all up, and you cut a little hole in the top, and you put your little money in there, and then after a while you break the thing to get the money out.
That's awesome.
I think I remember those.
I never had one of those.
I never had one,
No,
but I remember it.
It was one of those things that I never had as a kid. It was something that I wanted. One of my friends had it. It was like, and I think I saw it once in one store, and my mom was going, "No, that's too expensive. You're never going to get that." I was like, but I want it.
But it's mine.
So my number 5. So my number 5 really takes it back to my childhood. Was my the Superman cape that my grandmother made me, like right after Superman came out, and then I wore it like all the time. There's rips in it, but it's there. You can see it. I still own it.
Yep.
From when I was really young.
Really little.
Really,
it's so
really
little.
young. Yeah. Like it would come up to me like right here.
Yeah, now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's nice that you still have that.
Mm-hmm. But I would we would go outside and play, and I would jump around and act like I was flying, and
Yeah, back in the day we did this thing. It was called playing.
it was called playing.
We did it a lot. So my number 5 is another piece of art, and it's another piece by Freddie. I kind of like Freddie. I see Freddie a lot at like cons and stuff, and I actually like him as a person, and he does a lot of art that I like.
Mm-hmm.
But he did this one piece that just cracked me up. Like, it was the first piece of his that I actually bought. I would always go by and talk to him, and we're friends, and I would like look at his art or whatever. But I was like, this piece just cracks me up. So I'm a tabletop gamer, started with Dungeons & Dragons way back when I was like 11 years old. And so this is little goblins, and they're hitting a beholder piñata. So it just said like San Antonio, and yet it said tabletop gaming, and it's just this juxtaposition of like culture that I grew up with gaming that I grew up with, and I didn't know a lot of Mexican, American, or Latinos that actually played tabletop gaming. One friend, I had one little friend, and once I met you and Richard and everybody, but growing up it was mostly like dorky white guys, right?
Yeah.
So I liked that juxtaposition of the culture with the tabletop gaming. So that's my number 5.
Very cool.
All right, my number 5 again is something totally geeky. A long time ago, when I was much thinner, I used to, and not as old and grey, I used to costume, and I used to do the Wolverine.
Please tell me that you have a picture of that for everybody.
I have a picture of that.
Yes.
I used to do the original comic version, the yellow and blue.
Yep.
But then I progressed to the X-Men movies era, and I had a leather costume made.
Oh wow.
So, needless to say, I had the leather costume, I had the claws, I kind of looked a little bit like Hugh
You
Jackman.
did? Yep.
I had the accent, so I was like... And
Yep.
now I just look like an old... I could probably pull off Old Man
Old Man
Walking.
Logan.
you can
Old Man Logan.
Logan.
So I don't need to do the costume anymore, but it'd be nice if it fit. I might have to start working out and get that working
Get
again.
back into it.
Very nice.
But yes, there is a picture, I think.
That's awesome.
I could find that one.
Y'all definitely needed to see that because it's special.
Yeah, thanks, Colleen. Mr. Vincent?
So my number 4. So Colleen and I make tabletop games. One of the games that we made, I was really excited about it. That's done the best out of all the games that we've made, is our card game called Apt. So Apt is my number 4. It's a card game where you could install apps into your brain, and then you can get viruses, or you can like mess with other people, and you have hardware. So it was a really fun game. I was like, I'm a web developer by trade, and I wanted to make a card game that kind of made fun of that, make fun of technology as a card game.
Yeah.
So
I always thought it was a good concept.
yeah,
I'm very proud of it.
yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I've had a lot of people tell me they love playing it, even the original one, because we've...
And it's like kind of math heavy, so it's kind of
Yeah.
funny that people like it, but yeah. So my number 4 is kind of odd, I guess, but I like odd. So when Think Geek was going out of business, I like just rummaged through their website, and I was like, there's so much stuff, like I want some of this stuff. Well, they have a unicorn head that you mount on your wall, and the horn lights up, and it's a rainbow horn, and it has rainbow hair and stuff, and it's creepy because it doesn't have any like eyes, like pupils or irises. It's just all white, like. So I don't know, I liked it because it was like creepy, and then it looks like maybe I hunted a unicorn. I had thought about like buying one of those,
Plaques?
big wooden plaques, and then like putting it on there so that it looks like I hunted it or whatever.
I have like blood dripping.
But, yeah. So
It's
I
not-
don't know.
It shouldn't kill unicorns.
Don't kill
It's not-
unicorns,
not
but
good.
but for me, I thought it was kind of cool that I like hunted this unicorn. But so that's my number 4, just because it's just odd. I just like it. It's odd, and it's very unicorn, which is totally like a me thing. I grew up like with the whole Lisa Frank era, so
Yeah.
I totally love a unicorn. Can't help myself. So yeah, that's my number 4. What about you, Stuart?
Well, just give me a second and
Uh-oh.
while I rename some files here.
Stuart messed up the file.
Yeah, I did. I renamed something I shouldn't have.
Oopsie.
Anyway, again, video games is a passion with me as
Yep.
well. But because I come from the Asian-ish kind of area, I grew up with many Asian video games, and there was one handheld that didn't make it over here and isn't very well known. It's called a Wonder Swan. It was actually put out by the guy that originally designed the Game Boy.
Okay.
And it was actually better than the Game Boy. But it was put out by Bandai, and there wasn't that many games put out for it. There was 105. And I have every game that has been put out for this thing.
Really? You have 105 games for this system?
For this system, yeah.
Wow.
And I have multiple different gaming units for it, because they put out special limited editions for everything. I don't have all of them quite yet. I don't have all the boxed complete set of everything, but I have all the games.
Notice he said yet.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it was one of those things. It's like when I do my one big video game thing of the year, people always go, "Oh my God, this guy has Wonder Swan games. We've never seen this many Wonder Swan games in one place." It's like, well, yeah, because I buy them.
Yeah.
But it was a unique system because it was one battery, and it progressed like the Game Boy. It was a black and white unit, and then it was a color unit, and then a better color unit, and then the poor guy that designed it got killed in a car accident.
Oh.
But it had a lot of Western titles on there, but it was only in Japanese, and because it was Bandai, it was all Bandai products. So it did, like, instead of doing Pokemon, it did Digimon. and it did
Oh, okay.
all the Bandai, like the Gundams and
Right.
Inuyasha and One Piece and all that. And there were a couple of games that are very, very expensive, but it also did stuff like it did Space Invaders and Ghosts and Goblins and Pole
okay.
Position and a whole heap of stuff that you don't need to read Japanese with. But a lot of it is very text heavy, and if you can't read Japanese, there's really no point in getting it.
You're just collecting it just to collect it.
Yeah, you're just collecting it to collect it. But I like it because it's one of those unique things that not a lot of people know about. And again, one of them, it was for a while in Japan, it was a big seller because it was the first handheld unit to have Final Fantasy on it.
Oh.
Not Nintendo.
Interesting.
So it had market share just for a little bit because it had that.
I never even heard of it before. So number 3.
My number 3. We went searching for this when it came out and couldn't find it anywhere. The Sphero BB-8, the one you can control with an app on your phone. So we looked for it up and down. We found it a couple places, but it was like way expensive. We ended up finding it at a really good price at the Disney store.
Mm-hmm.
And who would have known it was going to be there?
No, and they had tons too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and that's where we got it. I was just like, we found it. And
You were
and
so
like,
excited when we found
let's just
it.
get it.
Yeah, we gotta get it. I'm like, okay, I've got it.
Because for the longest time, well, not the longest time, because those new movies hadn't been out that long. That was just a robot or an android that was different than R2-D2, but you kind of had a connection with it.
Mm-hmm.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah, because he has that same kind of personality. And
Yeah.
he, his beeps and stuff, that he's talking to you, and he tilts his head like a little dog
Mhm.
or something,
Mhm.
So, yeah. Well, so it's interesting that your number 4 was a game that we created, because my number 3 is a game that we created. I didn't do a picture of this just because I have it actually sitting right here next to me. So my number 3 is the organization. I'm more of a tabletop gamer. The guys are more video gamers, and I'm more of an actual role-playing gamer than anything else. So this is a role-playing game that Vincent and I designed with our friend Richard Sanchez. And my dad actually did the original artwork for this. He started it. And so we have his pieces in here, but he passed away before we could finish the book. And so this book means a lot to me. Our friend Austin Rogers came in and looked at my dad's original art and then went back in and made the characters. Like, here's Blackbird. This is actually Vincent. This is Vincent's character from when we were kids. And so Austin Rogers, who's a fabulous artist, he went in and reimagined these characters that my dad had imagined for us from writings that we had done, and we wrote the book together. And I wrote a lot of the storylines and the background stuff and the game mechanics we all did and did with Richard. And then my cousin Jason actually edited the book. So it's been a whole kind of like family, friend kind of community effort. Don't worry, we paid everybody.
And we had some knockout dragouts with that book.
We've had some interesting moments with this book. Yep.
Well, we didn't actually like physically hurt each other.
No, but we like to be.
We're very passionate about that. That was a very passionate endeavor that we took on.
It's not what one might call politically correct necessarily. It's very
Anymore,
James
yeah.
Bond-esque. It's very hoochie coochie. It's not for the children's. But I don't know. I loved it. I love the story. It is a role-playing game, so it's fiction, right? So you're in a fictional place where you're kind of a hoe, and that's okay. So that's my number 3.
All right, my number 3, again, is arcade related because I'm, again, stupid enough to own a whole heap of arcade machines. And it's one of my classic arcade machines. Now, I don't own a huge amount of classic arcade machines. I like to. I mean, I have a whole heap that are need to be rebuilt. Like I have Tron and a couple of other ones that I desperately need to rebuild. But the one that I have, and I have almost rebuilt it back to factory, is Gauntlet. Yeah, Colleen is salivating going, bring the gauntlet over.
Y'all don't even know how much I love Gauntlet. You have no idea. That's my fave.
And I actually bought it. It was local in San Antonio. It was another game at the time. It'd been turned into a Crime Fighters, which is another game I really like. But it was in an original Gauntlet cabinet, and that was why I bought it. I went, oh, that's Gauntlet. When I went to pick it up, it had the original joysticks and everything in it. So it's like,
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to convert this back. I spent far too much money doing it, but now I have an original Gauntlet. There's other arcade machines that I would love to own. That I put that, just sell it and go, that's gone. I want this other machine.
I mean, you know who would buy the Gauntlet from you.
Yeah, I don't think you could afford the Gauntlet.
Warrior needs food badly.
yeah, that machine was just designed to suck quarters.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. But somebody I know knows how to fix it so that it can go unlimited, right?
Well, I could put a button in it that you could just press and credit up.
Either that or it's your damn machine, so you just leave the door open, put the quarter in, fish it out, and put it in again. It's the same quarter.
Well, it's got 4 coin slots, so you have to leave both doors open.
Oh yeah, you'd have to leave both doors open. Just put can you put your quarter on a piece of string?
No, that doesn't. that doesn't work. As much as I tried it as a kid, and everybody else tried it. It doesn't work, boys and girls. It just doesn't work. The mechanism just won't allow it to go through.
Nope.
I hate when that happens. So my number 2 is kind of an endeavor all 3 of us took on in this room. All 3 of us did it, is our arcade machine.
Speaking of arcade machines.
Yeah. So that we, from start to finish, we all worked on it.
Yep.
And it came out great.
I love it. It makes
it's a lot of fun to play, and it's a lot of fun to beat all these games without quarters.
Mm-hmm. It's been a nice thing to have during all this quarantine, I'll
Yeah.
tell you what.
It has been.
Because did you tell everybody how many games it has on it?
It has 3,000 games on it. Arcade games.
Because it's got like a computer in it.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Well,
not really. It's kind of a hybrid board.
yeah.
It's not really official anything, but it does the job.
It does stuff. So my number 2 is a figure. I love like collectibles and figures and stuff like that. And another Disney store find that we found at the Disney store.
Mm-hmm.
I love Yoda. It's
Yeah.
weird. I love Darth Vader and I love Yoda, right? Those are my guys right there. And found this Yoda, and you press a button in his chest and his eyelids open and close and his head turns and his ears move and he talks and he does his little Yoda-isms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do or do not, there is no try and stuff like that, and his lightsaber lights up and stuff, and he's just, it's like he's alive. I don't know. When I was a kid, I always imagined that my things were alive and they could talk and stuff, so to have something that's animated that like works and his face works and everything, it brought the character to life for me, and I was like, oh, I love you, you're coming home with me. So yeah, I love him. I walk by him all the time and just press his button just to make him talk. I always have to give him new batteries. I'm like, Yoda's talking. So he's my number 2. What about you, Stuart? What's your number 2?
Well, again, my number 2, another one that I don't have a picture of because, again, it's at home somewhere.
It's at home somewhere?
Yeah, and this was actually at home somewhere. I wish I could find it because I really want it. Because like you guys, I do a lot of conventions and you meet a lot of people and you get to know people and they do art. There was a comic book artist by the name of Mark Texera who back in the 90s did a lot of Ghost Rider and Punisher War Journal and stuff like that. And he does Vampirella and a couple of others now that he's more famous for. Mm-hmm. And I think it was at a Corpus Christi convention, and he was bored and I was bored, and I got him to do a Ghost Rider because Ghost Rider is one of my favorite characters. And we got talking, and I found out that he's actually a classically trained painter. And during the slow parts of the thing, I said, when we were talking about this, he said, yeah, but the comic art is what makes me the money, not the classic painting. And I actually commissioned him to draw a vase of flowers and sign it. And he went, why would you want that? And I said, well, what's going to be worth more money? My Ghost Rider that you've draw 40,000 of, or the vase of flowers that you've only drawn once.
Slick. That's slick.
And the other thing was, because I requested this odd thing and it blew him away, he coloured it and he put so much time and effort into it. I felt bad paying the very little amount of money that I did for it. But it's like it's a beautiful art piece.
Nice. I would like to see that. When you find that, you've got to show us that.
I got to find that.
Because that's unique.
That's really cool.
Which unique gets us to number 1.
Gets us to number 1. My number 1 is actually a recent acquisition. And again, Stuart kind of helped me with this one too as well. Is my lightsaber. So you can see the nice lightsaber right here. Yeah, no, I worked hours and hours on trying to get this done. Burned one board out on it, and I actually had to rewire the entire thing and changed up some wiring to add things like kill switches and add things like recharge ports and stuff like that. But it was really cool. Printed out the chassis for it to put on there with my 3D
like 20
printer.
Times.
Yeah.
I don't like that one. That one's all right.
Well, it kept breaking on me because I didn't have the settings right on it.
The settings right.
Yeah.
Well, so my number 1, it was nice to hear you say in your list, like, oh, Colleen found this for me, and Colleen found this one. My number 1, Vincent found for me, and surprised the heck out of me one Christmas. I just almost fell off the couch when I opened this thing up. So everybody knows that I love Ninja Turtles, and if you pay attention to the show at all, you'll know that I love Sanrio, specifically Hello Kitty, because, you know, I couldn't afford it when I was a kid, and I thought it was so cute and cool and everything. So Vincent, little sneaky mister that he is, finds a Hello Kitty Donatello mashup figure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she has the staff and everything. She's so adorable. She is so perfect. And I was floored. Like, I never even imagined something like that existed, much less like that you imagined to look for it or found it or whatever. So when I got it, I was like, you have got to be kidding. Because I love a good mashup. You don't even understand how much I love a good mashup. And this was a perfect mashup.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the most perfect mashup. So that's my number 1. It will always be my number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I do like it.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about getting the other ones, or just?
No, I think just her, just Donatello. Yeah, I'm not like a big fan of the other turtles. Like, they're okay. Donnie's my guy. Like, but something about just having that one makes her like a little more special.
All right, and my number 1, which is like everybody else's things, is something that I put time and effort into and built myself. It is my costume from that PotCon back in 2005. It is a Shockwave costume.
Oh, really?
So it is
nice.
I remember that costume because you've worn it at ChimeraCon.
I've worn everywhere that it's been worn. It is sitting in my lounge room looking worse for wears, and the cats have probably done cat stuff on it and scratched it a little bit up. And the last time it got used was probably 4 or 5 years ago. My son wore it because I can't get into it anymore. Because when I designed it, it was a little thinner, and the other main problem when I designed it, it wasn't well designed. And it was funny, at the time, my girlfriend and I, we both designed these Transformer costumes. We were going to BotCon, we went to the parking garage and parked, and we figured out that we could both help each other dress and do everything. So we both dressed ourselves and out at the car, and then we were going to shuffle down to the convention, and I dropped the backpack that we had, and neither of us could bend down to pick the backpack up.
Oh, no.
So we had to socker this backpack down in this Transformer costume down 2 flights of stairs, and then we got down to the stairs, and to get into BotCon there was 4 steps to go up into the convention center. And my costume, you can't walk stairs. So I had to walk all the way down the street and then walk up this ramp to go down these 4 stairs.
Oh my god.
So there was this aimless Decepticon just wandering around because he couldn't do stairs.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
But it is one everywhere that I've put it in, and it's been repainted a couple of times because it's just made out of cardboard, believe it or not.
Right.
Cardboard and a lot of duct tape.
A lot of duct tape.
And it was like one of, I built, or I started to build about 7 or 8 of them. I really got motivated at one point, and then I just stopped.
Like
meh.
Well, it's nice that we have, you know, like commonalities, but kind of like different eclectic kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you can see our personalities in the 10 things that we picked. We didn't tell one another, just because we like to kind of, when we do these things, keep it so that we kind of have genuine reactions.
Well, luckily
to one
we didn't
another.
pick the same things.
I was surprised. I was
Yeah.
surprised that you and I didn't pick any of the same things, which I think is neat. 'Cause sometimes we
It could
do.
have been close. Like the organization could have been on mine.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was a gamble, but I really wanted to at least have one of our games, and of our games, that one was mine. And,
Yeah.
and really, when I think about it, Apt is definitely yours. So,
Yeah.
And I didn't have any books on mine aside from that book, which I was surprised when I just now thought back to my list. I was like, oh, I don't have any books. Well, shame on me. I should have some books on my list because I really like a book.
Well, that's a book. That's a book.
That's a book.
That you're published.
It's a book. I am. I'm published several times.
Cool. Well, that was it. That was our top 10 list of Geeky Possessions, or top Geeky Possessions. If you liked it, let us know. And also down below, let us know if you what your top 10 Geeky Possessions are, and talk about it. But if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to us and click on that notification bell so next time we go live or put out another video, you'll know about it. But thanks for checking us out. I'm Vince.
I'm Colleen, and that was Stuart.
Geek out, SA. Bye.